What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be taking a look at Nemesis Distress. Yes, indeed, this is in the same nebulous as the Nemesis that we covered like last week. Awakened Realms has been busy, and so aside from creating a one-for-one digital reconstruction of the board game, they've also created this game, which is effectively the first-person shooter version based on the board game that you can hook up in multiplayer and betray your friends and run around and avoid Xenomorphs and all that kind of stuff. We're going to dive on in today. I've played for about 5 or 6 hours just to get my feet wet with the game and understand all the various systems. I'm going to introduce you to the game. I'm going to talk about the things I like and don't like and things I think it can do better. The game is available in early access right now, so you can look down in the description to find that link in case you wanted to get on board. And then you'll also find a link to my Discord and my Twitch stream just in case you wanted to hang out live. So without further ado, let's get on into the game because there's a lot to cover here. And I do think that the game is interesting. I think it's got a very appealing premise. And so ultimately the point of this game is that you are part of a team. We're going to play solo because there's voice chat and whatnot in multiplayer. And honestly, the lobbies are kind of hard to get right now anyways because the player population is kind of low. But that having been said, this is a game where you are a member of a team that's going on board a derelict spaceship that is full of xenomorphs. You have to accomplish a mission. Once you complete that mission, there will be secondary tasks that you have to do. And once you've got everything all nice and wrapped up, you've got to escape without dying. We get to pick a character at the beginning. I've unlocked stuff. One thing that's interesting about this game is that it does have like a level-based progression system for your account. And as you win or as you play and as you die, you unlock basically better versions of these characters that have a whole bunch of like extra utility stuff that they just start out with, which is going to cut down on the amount of scavenging you have to do at the beginning of the game. I personally like this guy with the crowbar because the crowbar is like the best melee weapon in the game. It lasts forever, it never quite seems to break, and it always does well by me. So a lot of these tasks are going to be really hard to do solo. And so we're going to do data disk because I think data disk is probably the easiest one to do solo. Research is pretty doable solo if you've got the right equipment, but running the fuel cans and also examining the alpha alien are pretty damn hard if you don't have like a full group of 5 people. And so anyways, we'll do the data disk right here. Another interesting thing about this game is that the objectives are not unlocked when you first get the game. You're only going to have data disk, and as you level up your account, you get access to more missions. And as of right now, I actually don't know how many missions are in the game, but I worry slightly with it working like that. Like, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, there's only one mission, and just kind of like refund. I don't know. Like, I think maybe they should have all the missions inside of here, but grayed out, so that at least you know that there is some content in here in the early access. But that was definitely for me. I was like, oh, that's weird. There's only one mission. And then I played through a couple and I started to unlock later missions and I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. But this is Pierce. We're going to choose him, and then I think we're going to go ahead and start the game off. Let's dive on into the Space Hulk and see if we can survive. Alright, so here we are on board the Nemesis. Welcome aboard, passengers. You have been welcomed onto Nemesis flights, where terror is our business. We already have an alien right here. That is not great. I have a crowbar. It's okay. Yeah, go to sleep. There we go. So we've killed our first alien. I can officially add Alien Slaughterer to my resume. The lighting in this game is quite good. It's a really, really fetching looking game. The downside is there are some performance hitches you're going to hit as you play the game. So our goal while we're on the boat right now is that we've got to find dead bodies. The crew did not make it. And so we kind of need to loot all of the dead guys and see if we can find this data card that has information on the Xenos so that we can fire it down to a planet and have it recovered. There is a card right here. Any question mark you see on the map is a point of interest. That right there is a drop pod card. That's going to allow us to escape by using one of the escape pods. If you don't have the access card for the escape pod, can't use the escape pod. Hey, a shotgun. Very nice. Okay. That's a good acquisition for the beginning of the game, and I will wholeheartedly take it. Now, the good news is we're not blind in the dark here. All of our points of interest have been marked with blue circles, so one of the dead guys on the blue circle is going to have our key card. So let's get to work, because this game does actively get harder, believe me. Kick you real fast. The game does actively get harder as you play, because sort of like a creeping brush takes over the ship, and it's not great. He had a flashbang on him. Okay, fair enough. There's another dead guy over here. Squish that bug. You can press the Q key to squash bugs. I recommend you do that to retain the durability. Hey! Is that our data card? I think it is. Okay, so I'm going to chuck the electric mine with the U key, and we're going to pick up the data disk. And so what we need to do now is we need to take this data disk and we need to load it into a drop pod and fire it off. That's going to get risky because while we're carrying the drop pod, we can't defend ourselves. As I said, this game is definitely meant to be kind of played in multiplayer. Those right there are general... Oh, there he is. Don't make a sound. Nobody move. They're blind. They can't see us. The jukebox in here randomly turns on, by the way. So that's why he aggroed on the jukebox. They're blind. They can't see. They only respond to noise. And that's why this entire time you're going to see me crouch walking. Because one of the, you know what's even deadlier than Xenos in this game? What's even deadlier than Xenos is the shift key. Sprinting. Sprinting is just generally a terrible idea. What you got inside that crotch pocket? A flashbang. Okay. Yeah, you had to do what you had to do, man. Accentuate that bulge. I respect the hustle. Okay, I'm just going to run him off real quick. It only takes one shot, so it's not that big of a deal. I need all these eggs to get out of here because these eggs actually do hatch. And when they hatch, they turn into bugs that slowly evolve. And you see this creeping stuff right here? It slowly takes over the ship. And so for right now, most of the eggs are going to be isolated to kind of like this area. But later on, there will be many, many, many more eggs all over the ship. And it will get out of control very, very quickly. And so we kind of just want to make sure we've whacked all those things. Now, the downside here is that I've used up most of my shotgun shells. That's not great. But we are almost to our objective, or at least the second part of our objective. I'm going to kick on the flashlight real quick. You will occasionally find loot around the ship that will say things like legendary loot or like common loot or like whatever else. Don't... Oh, good. Emergencies. So emergencies are random things that come up while you're playing the game that you need to fix or bad things happen. So we've got to deliver batteries to the isolation ward. And then we also need to destroy a CCTV camera that is broken. I'm going to go ahead and close that off behind me. We've got another dead guy over here. I'm going to try to get his goodies. He had some legendary loot for us. The hallway's full of bugs. We've got another bug over here, too. I'm just going to deck him real fast. I don't think this goes to where I want to go. Yeah, I think I went the wrong direction. I'm going to have to map out a path here if we're going to make it over to where I want to go. Okay, we'll go this way. I don't have a flamethrower. Oh, no. Okay, I don't know where I am exactly. I'm a little bit lost, but we're going to figure it out, all right? There's the pod. Okay, so we now have the data canister. We've got to take this now, and we've got to fire it off. But in the meantime, we also need to complete our mission. Now, this canister is very risky. Like I said, we can't attack or wield a weapon while we're holding it, which means we've got to take the time to throw it, and then we've got to pull out a weapon, which basically, sometimes you need fast reflexes in this game if you want to survive. I hear the critter, but I don't know where he's at. There's a bug right there. I don't know if we aggroed it, though. It looks like one of our missions is over here. Okay, yeah, he jumped up into the vents. Let's whack this real fast. It's our CCTV camera, so we've resolved that trauma. That's been taken care of. And now we kind of just need to move away from here because the alien knows that we're here. So, like, we kind of just need to seal off doors, which, as in most things, are the arch nemesis of Xenomorphs. Just close a door. There's a bunch of landmines over here. I don't know if those are going to be helpful. There is a flamethrower over here. I would say take the flamethrower. There are lots of fuel canisters and things around, and the flamethrower is going to give us the means to kind of get rid of the Xeno for a little bit longer. We've also got to get batteries to the isolation ward, and we're kind of running out of time on that one. So I'd like to get there before too long. But the isolation ward is all the way down in the medical wing, and we are kind of nowhere near that. So we got to kind of... Damn it, I got bit by a flea. The fleas slow you down when they bite you, in case you were wondering, which is really, really bad when you're being actively chased by the Xenomorph. Like, it is a large-scale problem that leads to people becoming casualties. They start out as friends with names and dreams and all that kind of stuff, and they end up just being dead guys. I'm going to drop this right here because my experience tells me that if I pick up this item inside of here, it's going to bug out the canister. So we'll grab that. We've already got a drop pod card, so we don't need it. There's some loot right there, which just gives you bonus XP at the end of the mission if you survive. And then we need to drop this off elsewhere. So both of the places we're going are down beneath us. So I think we can hit them both in one sweep. Ugh. Stop it. Stop it. Okay, I had to put him down. All right, with extreme vengeance, he had to go. Okay, so as long as this room is all right, we can launch the pod, and that's the mission completed. Now we've just got to get off the boat within 5 minutes. But I would like to deactivate the... Or I would like to activate the battery. Come on, get werfed. Yeah, he don't like the werfage. He don't like the werfage. All right, there's the battery, so we've swapped that in. Now we've got to get off the craft. Okay, I had enough fuel to run him off, but we're pretty much out of fuel. So we need to find our way off the ship, and the best way to do that is going to be the cargo pod, I think. I'm going to check my path real quick. Oh, dude. Okay, yeah, he found us. All right, that's inconvenient. Could be a better situation. Close the door behind me. We'll lock ourselves in, and we're okay. We're okay. We're all right. Let's nobody panic. Everything's fine. Everything's going to be good. We don't really have any flamethrower fuel left. I would love to have more flamethrower fuel.
We are on a collision course.
But the game has not... Oh, good. We're on a collision course with an asteroid, too.
Or activate emergency shields. Otherwise, the damaged sections will be closed.
With 1% flamethrower fuel, I don't feel confident that he's not going to turn around and come back over this way. But we have to move, so I'm going to give it a go. Like, we've only got a couple minutes to get out of here, so, like, time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping out of the airlock. If I remember correctly, there was fuel inside this closet. And if I can get the fuel, yeah. Okay, so now I can run off the Xenomorph if I need to. We're just going to keep it low and slow, and we're going to go for the A-pod that's in front of us on the minimap and see if we can get out of here. We're creeping closer. It's okay, we've still got time. We've still got time. It's all gonna be all right. Everything's gonna work out. Everything is good. We're at peace. I do have a side quest to redivert the ship to Mars and crash land it, but that seems like a lot of effort when I've only got 2 minutes left to live. So I'm not going to go for that objective. I'm just going to sacrifice the points and get myself out of here. Let's keep on going. There is some common loot over here, though. I will take that. The few more bugs around, so we'll just go ahead and give them the old squishins. Break that. The escape pod's right over here. You want to get gushed, bro? You want to get gushed? I can give it to you. I can convert you into loosely assembled giblets, my man. That's right. Walk away. There we go. And that was our first mission completed. I know it might have seemed like it was really, really simple, but, like, sometimes things have a way of going sideways in this game and really, really kind of messing with your life. And so the fact that we got it done, I'm happy with it. We got a W right there. We took care of our business. Maybe we'll try something a little bit harder next, but for our efforts, we got ourselves some XP. That XP is going to be put into an XP bar. When the XP bar goes up, you unlock and upgrade your characters so that they start out with more items. I do think that the game is going to need a lot more stuff added to it in order to keep people playing. I mean, it's already got a really, really small player base. When I was looking at Steam charts this morning, before I went through to record this video and I started doing my practice runs and figuring out the various mechanics of the game, there was only like 100 people globally playing, and so it's got a very, very small community. I did get a chance to do some multiplayer over on Twitch TV, and it was fun, but it did have a lot of lag, and there were some bugs along the way that made things kind of like difficult. And so just be forewarned that in the case of this game, you're not necessarily starting out with something that's like highly polished. This early access is one of those early accesses that would be kind of considered like playtesting, basically. You're here to find bugs, report them, and help them polish up the game, and hopefully we end up with a bunch of content being added to the game as well as it goes along. Sure, I can research some eggies. Let's get on in here and research some eggies. But anyways, that's pretty much the flow of the game right there. Occasionally when you're playing multiplayer, you'll have a job to kill somebody on your team, or to betray them, or to get them eaten by the alien, or to make sure they survive. Things to just kind of ramp up the social discord and sort of like ramp up the intrigue, I guess. But playing single player, you're not really going to see those objectives. But they do exist, and they do make the game a little bit more interesting. I'm just going to take out... Ooh. Disgusting. Anyways, they do ramp up the intrigue a little bit, and I do think they make the game a little bit more interesting, but the ship doesn't randomize, and so the ship is static. It stays the same pretty much every time you play the game, and so I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue. Like in the board game, the layout of the ship is randomized. My guess is the reason why it's not randomized in this version is because, like, they wanted the ship to kind of have, like, character, I guess, and they wanted it to sort of stand out and have distinct areas. But that having been said, I do think that it needs either more ship layouts and it randomly picks between like 2 or 3 ships, and then like you just don't know which one you're going to get, and so you've got to memorize the layouts of all of them, or like something to kind of ramp up the replay value. Hey, stop that. To ramp up the replay value. But since you've basically seen how a round plays out, and they're not that much different in between aside from the objective that you're trying to do, like right now we have to break eggs. And in breaking eggs, we get research materials, and then we use those research materials in order to, like, go to the lab and kind of, like, scan them and stuff like that. But, like, it's not that different. But anyways, that's our current goal, is to research eggs that we're breaking on open. But let me go ahead and give you my condensed thoughts about this early access. I think there's some good and some bad in there, and there's things that I hope they'll focus on first in order to get it kind of moving. My thoughts. The early access for Nemesis Distress is a bit of a mixed bag, in my opinion. And taking it from the top, I like to start with the things the game does well, and then we get to kind of the things the game does not do well. And the things I think the game does well are largely in the realm of visual and audio design, with a few caveats. The audio is very, very well done. The Nemesis as a ship creaks and groans, and you can tell that it's falling apart with every step that you take. As it slowly gets taken over by the hive, you go from that creaking and groaning to kind of like a sticky, crackling, writhing, chittering mass that gets harder and harder to navigate the longer your game takes. And the monster sounds, impacts, and gun noises and everything else all generally sound pretty good. Visually, the game looks great. I think that it's a really, really attractive game to play through, but it does use too much motion blur and bloom. That's kind of a a non-complaint, though, because there's toggles for both of those, though. But I turned them all off after about 1 or 2 games. Performance is going to be an issue. So as the creep spreads and takes over the Nemesis, performance really takes a hit. So when you're like 20 minutes into a round, you're going to start to see a little bit of frame lag. Like it's going to start to chunk up on you a little bit, especially during events like getting hit by asteroids or whatnot. And so anyways, that's going to be something they probably want to get optimized as quickly as they can. We are, after all, PC gamers. We like our frames smooth. And so textures and lighting, I think they all look very, very good as well. And I don't really have any complaints on that avenue. Animations-wise, while the audio for the action sounds good, I do think there's a little bit of room for more weight and impact to be added to the melee weapons and kicks. A little bit more wind-up on the swings for, like, crowbars and things. A little bit more of an extension of the leg for kicks and stomps and whatnot. And I think they'd have a better feel and more heft to them. The ship's design is nice. The atmosphere is suitably tense and gloomy and really sort of harkening back to something like Alien Isolation. However, the ship, as I said, does not randomize as far as I can tell with its layouts, and so that's going to limit some of the replayability you'll find in like a single-player or multiplayer experience. The corpses and the items do move around, but like the layout of the ship itself is static. And so anyways, I do think that it's fairly clear from my time that I've played that multiplayer and the threat of backstabs are meant to be the major threat in this game. The alien is usually pretty easy to evade unless you're like out of ways to get rid of him and you're like sprinting around the ship. And I think that there's definitely some lessons to be taken on board with making the alien feel organic like Alien Isolation did. Because like most of your interaction with the Xenos in this game, it is basically the same as it was in Alien Isolation, but done like a little bit more janky. And so anyways, I think they're hoping that the multiplayer social deduction game will make up for that deficit. But honestly, the rounds do play pretty quickly, and the amount of backstabs that I've seen has been fairly limited. I do like the inclusion of some of the ideas from the board game. Things like getting slimed and needing a shower to wash it off are really cool. Getting infected and having to go to the surgery ward to get the embryo removed are really, really rad. But both of those are just simple E-button interactions, and then it purges the status effect off of you. I would really actually like to see the tension be ratcheted up by putting you in an animation, basically, like when you're showering that you need to complete to get all the slime off, or putting you in an animation a la Prometheus where like you actually see with all the screaming and, you know, the screeching of the bug, it being removed from your body by the automated machine as you're stuck to the bed for like, you know, 10 seconds. Like something like that would be really, really cool for immersion. I'd like it a lot. The advancement system is a good idea, but it's implemented a little bit oddly, I think largely due to the fact that all the content is not in the game yet. But like you unlock missions through doing previous missions, and there's no real problem with that per se, but like I said at the beginning of the video, I think a lot of people are going to do the flip down option to see what missions are available, and they're going to be like, oh, no content, and then they're just going to walk away from it after they do the data disc, whether they win or lose or whatever, because they think there's not going to be a lot of stuff there. From what I can tell, after 5 or 6 hours of playing, there's 4 or 5 objectives. I haven't unlocked any after that. That's not to say that there won't be more after that, but as this is meant to be an impressions video, I kind of felt like 5 or 6 hours. If I go more than that, it's going to end up becoming like a formalized review. You know what I'm saying? But in general, you never want the player to think, oh, there's only 1 or 2 objectives. Lame. You want them to be like, okay, so there's more stuff. And like you want them to be tantalized by the breadcrumb of progression, I guess. I did get a chance to try the multiplayer for a couple of hours. I do think the game is actually better in that regard, but there are a lot of bugs and technical issues that may frequently cause you to stub your toes on gameplay. Just off the top of my head, bugs I ran into, there was the one that I talked about in this video where the launch canister for the data chip gets bugged in like a million different ways, and then you can't complete the mission. There's also a bug where when you spawn in, it doesn't give everybody like their objective or something that I saw. But like... It happened every now and again, but by and large, I would say out of like 10 games that I played, it happened like once or twice, but still, like it still needs to be sorted out because there's nothing worse than losing a mission kind of on the 5-yard line due to like a visual bug or the canister falling through the floor or whatever. No pun intended on that bugginess. But really, I think the current early access is okay, but not great. It could be elevated with some spit polish and a large infusion of players into the general player base. There's not going to be a lot of lobbies available when you're looking to play this game. Like, the most I've seen is like 2. And so anyways, and a lot of the time, the ping is very, very high, which basically makes the game unplayable anyways. I did enjoy the runs that I put into single player and multiplayer. I'm going to keep an eye on the game as it develops in early access. But like I said at the beginning, realistically, this game feels pretty early on in its early access journey. So unless you're willing to pay for the game in order to like bug test it or whatever, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep an eye on it. The developers sent me a key, so like obviously that kind of removes some of my skin from the game right there. But had I purchased the game, I think this one would have been one of those ones where like I'll check in every couple months to see what they did with the content and like what bugs have been smoothed out, and maybe I'll do like follow-up coverage later on in the future. But there are bugs here, there are performance issues here, there is kind of not a huge limit on content, but like I don't see it as a game that people are going to play for like 100 hours straight. Like, it's definitely in early access with all of the random kind of sparking wires and things that go along with that. I think the premise is really, really appealing, and I think that if they can get it ratcheted and bolted together nice and tight as it continues its journey, I think the game will be really, really cool as kind of like a pseudo-encapsulated Alien Isolation style multiplayer survival horror game. But a lot of that's going to depend on whether they can do that fixing and whether or not they can actually get warm bodies into the game, because globally there was only like 100 people playing at the time of me recording this video, and with an entire planet, that meant that there was lots of people jumping in who were laggy from far, far away. There was lots of people just trying to play the game, you know what I mean, or like waiting on a lobby, and that kind of stuff I think is going to scare people off too. So like, cool premise. I really, really hope they get it put together, because like when the game is humming and it's moving, it's actually a lot of fun to play. But for right now, I'd keep an eye on it. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day, so you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, we had Nemesis Distress. Tomorrow, we will have a look at another game hot off the indie skillet. Thank you for the luxury of your attention. I'll be back later, and that's all I've got. Bye-bye, everybody.